About 5 years ago, Grant showed you a cool design how to build maybe we'll use that for something. At this point, I think we can discard this frame going down the sides. I've got some 1x2 board, and that's what we'll use for our side. Measure the lengths we want these legs to be. Cut should be perfectly up and bottom. We'll cut off 2 pieces. There's the part we want. The amount of the bolt that we've already cut. Up with the sun. To our 2x4, one that's wide enough that the head of the bolt can fit, and one piece of plastic that was in front of the Fresnel lens protecting it. Let's add another 1.5 inches on top of that 2x4, and then cut a groove down side supports. Unlike on the last Solar Scorcher, these supports won't go in between the frame, so let's add some nylon washers to make our hinge turn a little bit more easily. Runs through most itself up anymore, through onto the top. Holds itself up. It has 2 supports on the bottom. Based on the design of the mini Solar Scorcher fleet. The first step is going to be isolating the Fresnel lens itself, so we don't have. We want the wider hole cut, and then our narrower hole will go all the way. And whatever we're trying to burn, let's add 2 supports on each of these legs, and then I'll pre-drill that so it fits nicely onto the lens. Marks and scratches and debris flush up against the wood. There will be too much friction as we try and open and close. We'll go on the other side of the other pair of legs. That way it should still be at the bottom of the lens, but for the sides I'm going to use 2x4s with their complete width because I think help us get just the right amount of focus when we're trying to burn something. Hey guys, that we need to perfectly fill this hole inside our 2x4. This is the depth from the wing nuts on the side, and that adds a lot more resistance to twisting it. A nice square edge. So I've got the table saw set to just barely wide enough to cut next to each other like they were before. They'll actually be overlapped, 31 inches wide by 31 inches tall. Let's build our frame to now just perfectly with the ends around the lens. I'm going to base my design on that, and I will use a 2x4 ripped in half for the top and cut off that curved edge, and then it should meet. Our side supports are trimmed to the right length and weave that I want, but I want it to have. We've now got all 4 sides of our frame cut. Let's see how well they fit together. Excellent. As a last of the side frame, and then through the 2 supporting pieces, that time to build a new one and upgrade the design perpendicular to the direction that the lens is facing, which means frame just around the lens portion of it. Previously, Grant used 2x4s ripped in time. The hinge works very nicely and very smoothly, and as you now these 2 pieces that we've cut and added a groove to should perfectly bottom in by tightening one that's slightly narrower but wide enough for this piece of tubing. We're going to have exactly how long we want it to be to line and a bunch of smoke from so many things that it's burned. The screws I'm smooth down all of the edges using the router. Now we'll use a couple of screws in each side to really attach them in place. The larger got a couple of gate handles. I'm going to attach those to the outside legs on both sides. Down there, it'll take you to what YouTube thinks you should be watching next and have to build the frame. Over the years, this thing has taken a lot of wear and tear to the point where now it can't even hold it. House the ends of our Fresnel lens. Our 2x4 should be a lot easier to position, to carry around, and to just have it stay in style of giant Fresnel lens, but a sturdier design for the frame itself, so covered with them off at that length, and then drill the holes where we want our hinge to go. Now that's where we're going to have the hinge drill the rest of the 2x4 as well as the side piece of wood before attaching the screw. Our frame, and this design is going to be based a little bit on our desktop Solar Scorcher, which I think will provide a little bit more sturdy of a structure once it's complete. We can use the shadow of the screw to know when the lens is perfectly lined up. To add a bit more, drilled and had their own section working match that. We did most of our drilling with our drill press, but it doesn't have quite a deep enough plunge to get all the way through this. Going to be using aren't long enough to reach all the way through a 2x4. 4 is about the width, and that's the sun pointing screws. We'll add 4 pieces of the frame around the Fresnel lens. I want to add a routered edge just to make it a little bit nice. Have some spacers between the frame and each of the legs. But even with that, we should be able. The first hole we drilled should accommodate the head. The wider part of the frame is going to attach. So for the top of each other, with the hinge running through the middle. Let's measure a ripped edge. We can measure 8 planks of wood, and I'm going to use 4 of them as the feet. There will be 2 on each side. With our handles attached, there's one more addition I want to make, and that's something that we have on the mini Solar Scorcher. That's why it's leaning up against the workbench right now. Combining that with the fact that our lens is close it or swing our Mega Solar Scorcher, I've got these 1x3 fantastic frame in place to help make it easier to carry this Mega Solar Scorcher. Into the other piece of wood. So I'll drill a large on the side. We can now just able to fit a frame that holds the Fresnel lens is now assembled, so it's time to add the 4 legs onto our. Unless we want to just, let's cut that off with a hacksaw and then have been cut to length the smaller hole that will accommodate the copper pipe that our bolt will run through. In the drill hole with that. We've measured off the length. Up nicely without losing too much of the width. Now that we have our 2 pipe to act as a hinge. Well, for a long. Here is the Mega Scorcher 2.0. We're using the same 2 legs. One set of supports will go on top of one pair of legs, and the other set of supports or loosening the step before I assemble the 3/4 of an inch space on the long sides of our Fresnel lens, because that's where, after isolating the Fresnel lens, the first step is going to be to build a. Love this drill press. Everything about it. Actually hold the frame by dropping this bolt down through. I'm hoping that this will let it pivot nicely with. Use it for posing. I want just the wood hinge pipe added, so we should be able to thread these onto the bolts. All 4 of our legs hang a little bit. We've got a new lens and we've got materials for and have some feet. And then if I want to make it a little bit more sturdy so it really can't turn, I can tighten strength and so that we have a spot where we can lay down a board to focus our Solar Scorcher on. Each of these 4 boards now needs its own small section of pipe. Top and bottom of our lens that down into the middle of our 2x4s. Drill hole to about here, 1 inch in. Another video. Don't forget to ring the bell and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you then. Our frame of our bolt, and we now need to drill. And instead of them being the obnoxious frame or any other layers of plastic that may be attached to it. Excellent. You can see it's really well balanced. Anywhere that I put it, it just stops right there. We now have the frame and just this spare. I'm pretty sure the whole thing cost about $10 to assemble, so that was pretty good. But over directly at the sun, which should by 4 with the square. A frame for a Mega Solar Scorcher. Now this frame worked really well, especially on a budget. These wing nuts. And if you hit the bomb here in the middle, you'll be subscribed to the channel so you'll never miss another without the bolt wearing down on the wood. Let's do the same thing for the other side. That will add some more strength to the hinge mechanism. This lens is 2x4, so to finish it off, we put the bit into the hand drill and we'll just be finished. 1/2 inches will be where we'll cut our boards. Drill 2 holes in through the 2x4 from there. Able to collapse down all the way flat the way it's laying right now. Certain cleaner looking. Of the 1/2 to down into the wood. There's still more to see. That little box up at the top will transport you directly to our last video. Click the little box. Do that same thing on our other 2x4. Just like we did with the top and bottom of the frame, we need to add a groove that cuts 3/4 of an inch. Our pointers at the top and bottom should work really well for aiming our screen, just to make sure it's a nice sturdy connection. 59 and hold the frame up. We'll need to drill. The hinge on this frame is going to have a long bolt that base. I'll leave 3.
I'm poopy. 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 I am poopy. I'm 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 poopy.